Hello and welcome to another edition of Gas It Out, the motorcycle racing podcast. As always, I am joined by my illustrious colleagues, Neil Hodgson and Sylvain Gintoli. And we should have been in Qatar. Basically, when we are recording this, we should have been over in Doha for the fourth round of the championship. As you will all know, it has been cancelled. And so, we've had a week of just trying to work out what to do with ourselves. Sylvain, you've probably been keeping the busiest. How was all your testing? How's your prep going for the 24 hours and for the marathon? How's that all looking?
Good. It's looking good. But like you said, Gav, it's been busy. So straight from Austin, I went straight to Le Mans for 2-day test. That's for the World Endurance team with my new team, Auto Race UB. So it's like the new BMW. So there'll be 2 factory teams for BMW next year, the 37 bike that was on last year, and then this one, 76. So that went really well. And then was straight back for that, 1 day off, and then 2 days testing BSB in Donington Park with the 810 racing team. So as well for BMW, but in BSB trim. I tell you what, that was a bit of a shock though. The BSB bikes are interesting to ride, obviously without traction control, without wheelie control. So from going from endurance to this, you had to sort of readjust the right wrist a little bit. But it was good. I enjoyed it, and it went really well. And hopefully the idea there was to try and help the 810 racing team, to dial in the bike and try and find some gains, with the electronics and that, because obviously in BSB it's the Motec ECU. It's a single ECU for everybody, and like I said, you're not allowed traction control, you're not allowed wheelie control, so it's basically hard to tame the beast. There's a lot of horsepower and a lot of control that is down to the rider. So it's a different way of racing. I loved it.
But so hang on, Sylvain, can I just jump in? Like, having not had to do what you've done, so you basically was testing, then you had a day off, then you tested a bike that got all the rider aids, I guess, all the traction control, anti-wheelie and all that lot. And then you jump on like the BSB bike with everything off. Is it exhausting then? Is it much more physical on a BSB bike?
But I knew that already, because back in 2017, when I was riding for Suzuki, I actually I was racing the BSB championship, full championship, with the new Suzuki that just come out. I was racing the World Endurance bike in Suzuka for the 8 hours, and I was also test riding for MotoGP team, and I did a few wildcards as well that year. So I was riding the BSB, I was riding the World Endurance, and I was riding the MotoGP, and the most towering bike, or the most physical bike, was the BSB bike. Because
I love that.
Yeah, because you get no control, and obviously the tracks, as you know, Neil, they're like they are difficult. There's a lot of up and down crests, and so
a lot of bumps.
Wild. The bikes want to wheelie all the time, and because they're not tamed by the electronics, they are less efficient. So you go a little bit slower than a World Superbike spec, for example. But you have to control it more. You have to fight the bike more. You have to, you have to be more active on the bike. So physically, BSB was and is still the most difficult category for me anyway. That's riding the different bike.
So are we saying that they are the best riders then, the BSB riders? Is that what we're officially saying?
It's difficult to say which one is best, because it's like a different category. So obviously, the BSB guys, I think, are underrated. And I know in England, everybody knows that BSB is competitive, and basically most people agree. This is one of the most competitive national championships. But actually, the top 15 in BSB is very fast, and they're very experienced with that set of rules, which requires a different riding style. And they're very experienced on the quirky tracks. Your Alton Park, Cadwell Park, you throw like a World Championship rider there with no electronic aids. And honestly, it's difficult to adapt, really difficult. So BSB, the guys at the front, they are, they're not here to, they're not hanging about. They're
not messing about.
Saying this, Sylvain, because you posted the picture of yourself being only 1.5 seconds off the top time. Is this part of it? Is this exactly what you did?
Gav, I think it was 1.4. Let's not be.
Sorry.
And hang on.
Every time counts.
Gav, also, Sylvain told us off camera, he didn't put a qualifier in. He didn't put a soft tire in. So,
No,
so
just a
basically,
hard
what
one.
he's saying is he thinks he could have been faster because we know if you put a soft tyre in, you're going to get at least 1.5 seconds advantage.
Neil, I don't know about you. I can smell a comeback.
Like
30th anniversary year of BSB this year. I'm not saying, but I can smell a comeback.
Sylvain,
Look, I'm not saying I could come back, but actually, I was genuinely quite happy with this. 1.5 from the front, doing some testing. I was happy. I'll take it.
Round it down. Round it down, Sylv.
Round it down.
When
You're
is the
about a
first
second
now?
off.
When is it? It's soon, isn't it?
It's soon. It's at Alton Park. Really easy, that track. So easy.
Nice and
Honestly,
easy track. Yeah.
Those will do damage to your hamstrings if you're not too careful of that.
Yeah, bloody hell. I want it.
Anyway, as if you weren't busy enough, Sylvain. Yeah, chuck a bit of BSB in the mix. Well done anyway. Yeah, we saw. Look, did you have a spill? Did you have a little?
Yeah, tiny one. Last turn, is it Goddard's? It's called
Goddard's.
I came in a bit hard. Goddard's. And I was following. I think it was Ran Vickers, and he was actually quite fast. And so I was trying to follow him, and I did run out of talent there mid-turn. So it was only a little one, like a.
Goddard's is the corner where everyone's gone down at some point. It's one.
There's a few bumps there,
off camber.
Well, Sylvain, those bumps have always been there, mate.
I know. They're better now, actually.
Do you know what it was? It was definitely the airline fuel. That was 100%. That's what it was.
Yes.
Yeah,
No, do you know what it was, Gav? It was that tear-off that Glenn Richards crashed on there 15 years ago during that Supersport race.
Tear-off gate, which you actually believe more now after we saw, was it Pecco Bagnaia?
It was crashing.
Indonesia?
Someone crashing the Moto2 race on it as well.
Yeah. Manu? No, there's someone. Anyway, do you know what Sylvain's saying there about BSB actually? And this is a Q&A episode, by the way. We are going to get to some of your questions. We've been wittering on already. This is just what we tend to get up to in this podcast. But, like Jake Dixon went straight from, winning race in BSB, challenging, runner-up in the championship, challenging, and went over to Moto2, the most competitive class in the world. And actually, without going through the World Championships, was there quite quickly, wasn't he? Up towards the sharp end, which... Jake's obviously got a lot of talent, but also just shows the level of BSB at the same time, doesn't it, Neil?
100%. Like we know, and it always annoys me when people say there's no talent in the UK. There is, but unfortunately, they are pushed down the superbike route, understandably, because we are fortunate to have that in our country. It's the best domestic superbike championship in the world. Fact. By miles, in fact, if you look at the whole paddock, the whole infrastructure of it. But then, unfortunately, that does it's got a pull with it, where if you are born in Australia, which sounds quite random, they've got a decent superbike championship, but it's not that good. Or in America, it's a decent one, but it's nowhere. It's not the BSB, is it? So I think that's part of the reason why we actually don't have as many people at World Championship level.
Yeah, because you've got such a strong domestic series. Motor America's lost all its manufacturing involvement, things like that.
Exactly.
Spain, it's all about the smaller bikes. It's about youth. It's about, that's their premium class, shall we say, on their racing weekend. Just a couple of bits that have been going on in the motorcycle world that we should probably just be across, first of all. News coming from Malaysia about Aleix Espargaró, who has had a big crash during testing, broken 4 vertebrae. And that is rough. Look, that can't have been a pretty one at all. Very, very heavy crash. He's been over there in hospital. So we wish Aleix all the very... But you can see there's not an ounce. His body fat.
It sounds like
must be like
4%
or something ridiculous, 5%. Yeah, it does, doesn't it, Sylvain?
Yeah, those sound like this kind of injuries is normally when you get a huge impact. So it's as well high speed or something gone wrong with the bike and, going to the wall or something bad. So yeah, fortunately it sounds like, so he's got 4 vertebrae fractures, but from his post on his Instagram, it sounds like it's not anywhere near the sensible bit where you can,
the actual vertebrae.
Get paralyzed. So it must be the wings of the vertebrae,
Okay.
or it's not near the spinal cord. So they've managed to stabilize him, and he says he's going to fly back straight away. to get assessed in Barcelona, the Dexus clinic. So it's that's a big one though. I mean, to have that many fractures in the back, and it must have had a massive impact. Yeah. So we're trying to find out a bit more what happened, but yeah.
Yeah, well, hopefully he is back by now by the time you're hearing this recording, and on his way to recovery soon. Another discussion point that's been going on at the moment in MotoGP is to talk about reserve riders. It sounds like it's going to be mandated. Davide Tardozzi has talked about it. Doesn't sound like he's particularly in favour of it. Sounds like something for next year. It's not a huge news story, but in many ways it is, because it's a thing that works in F1, because you can run simulators, you can get yourself prepped, you can be pretty much up to speed in things. You jump in a car and, they do say at most levels of the game, you can probably jump in a Formula One car and be okay. It's a different thing in MotoGP, isn't it? And what we have found over the years, and Sylvain, you know only too well yourself, having spent a year working for Tech 3 as a kind of, test reserve rider when it was back in just as the first step into MotoGP. You've got your own career to think about. And most other riders at the moment in this sport are trying to forge their own career, aren't they? It's rare you get the likes of a Michele Pirro who decides, while he was winning races in Moto2 or what have you, to step across and become a reserve rider. It would be an interesting move, wouldn't it? I suppose there'll be a few riders thinking, I might be up for it. But ultimately, it might be at the other end of their careers that people are going to have to consider it.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like this is going to be compulsory for the team from Liberty, which actually would make sense because, if a rider gets hurt, you need to be replacing him. You need to have the people on the grid, and we've seen in the past that we've had sometimes many riders missing, off the grid, and obviously that's not what the championship wants. But you're right, Gav, to put that in place, it's difficult because also you can't have anybody riding those MotoGP bikes. I know from next year you'll have no ride-out devices, and the Pirelli tires are going to be let's say a more natural transfer from Moto2 or from World Superbike. So that would, in that respect, that will help. But you need to find riders that have got suitable contracts, so with the manufacturer. They also haven't got another race if they are competing in another championship. They can't just let the championship down. I think what we're going to see is probably different contracts for Moto2 riders, maybe, where they could have some kind of clause in their contracts where if they are to be called to replace in MotoGP, it's then something that is already pre-agreed in their Moto2 contracts. That could be the case. And we're going to see riders, so sort of semi-retired riders like Aleix Espargaró, the test riders like Pirro, they'll have contracts. But for example, a manufacturer like Ducati with 3 teams on the grid, 6 bikes on the grid, does that mean they'll need 3 replacement riders if needed? So they're going to need to hire people and find a way to make it work. So yeah, I think what's going to happen is more riders are going to have clauses in their contracts allowing them to step up to MotoGP for a replacement just in case they are needed. And this will require the manufacturers to have direct agreements with the riders, or with riders that they already have in their in sort of in a different championship. But interesting that they want to secure and make sure that the MotoGP grid is full. At the end of the day, that's what it's all about. And we know with 44 starts in the year, in between the sprints and the GPs, it's very likely that riders get hurt because they ride so much. This is not F1. The F1 guys, they can do lots of races. They don't get hurt that much. So let's say it's rare, much more rare for them to miss a race because of injury. In MotoGP,
race because they're getting sacked. Or, there's someone else that thinks it's going to be quicker. That's often the way, isn't it?
But in MotoGP, the injury issue is much more present. And we see, obviously, many riders riding with injuries and sometimes not being able to make the grid because of injuries.
Yeah, and
we saw it last year, didn't we?
Good, exactly. No one was in there last year for Jorge Martín. It was Savadori all the time. You get a 10 days grace on this. But I suppose Gunther Steiner from the Formula One paddock will have seen it firsthand with Maverick Vinales, and probably all for it in that respect. And Paul Espargaró was actually there, wasn't he? I spoke to Paul and he said, well, he would have had a go if he had his leathers, which sort of seems a bit of an oversight, doesn't it, in that respect? But I can understand it, of course. But it's going to be it's going to be a hard one to find people at the level, because we've had people standing before Neil who weren't at the level.
Well, basically, Sylvain's stock value's just gone up, and I'm laughing, but I'm not, because the reality is there's not many people can jump on a modern MotoGP bike and be competitive with experience, and like Sylvain's in a rare few. I'm trying to think of people that are test riders that aren't GP test riders right now that have been. Like a Mika Kallio, he's still riding anyway. He's still riding anyway into Kallio, but so. As your manager, Sylvain, leave it with me. We will come up with something. I know you've already currently contracted to BMW, but
that's what I was going to say.
Don't worry.
Obviously,
what could possibly go wrong? We're not going to end up in court, or we might. But...
No, but it is true. It is true that it's potentially that's problematic, because you'll have young and upcoming riders. They're not really going to want to be doing one shots like that, because this will be them putting a lot on the line. Why they don't do well? What if these guys, the really good ones, they don't want to do that kind of stuff. They want to have testing time, and they want to come up when the time is right with the correct ride, and so on. So these guys don't want to do one shots. So you're then left with test riders or World Superbike riders. But what if there is a clash of dates? What if there's not enough test riders? I mean, Yamaha, for example, they've got Fernandez, they've got Dovizioso. But do these guys want to race? And then
no.
at KTM, they
Dovi doesn't.
Dovi doesn't want to race. Maybe it's the return for Karl Crutchlow if he wants to do a few. That'll be good. I'd love to see Karl back on the grid, actually. And then you've got...
I don't know if he'd want to race now. I don't know, really. Because do you know what I mean? Like,
I don't know.
Without any riding, thrown in at the deep end.
You are.
It's hard.
Sylvain, you had offers, didn't you? You have had them over the last couple of years where people say, do you fancy stepping in? And it's like, well, I haven't ridden a MotoGP bike in 2 years. What am I supposed to do here? It's hiding to nothing. And the other one is, I'll let you answer that in a second. In Moto2 riders you mentioned before, well, your Manuel Gonzalez or whoever is at the front of the championship there, Senna Aegis, whatever, one, they don't want to, have a bad weekend doing that, but they're going for a championship. They've got their own championship that could help their future career. So then you're looking at the next level of rider who perhaps shouldn't be riding a MotoGP bike anyway. It's a bit of a minefield, isn't it?
Be interesting.
Yeah, it will be. It looks like it's something that's going to be happening. We are.
Have you got some questions for us, Gav? Because we are going to get through. For ages, we're going to do a question.
Is that a Q&A? This?
We've got. This is a Q&A.
You better have, Gav.
Not just from me.
I hope you got some good one, Gav.
First one, before we go to a little break, a couple. I've got one from Dr. Hoodies. Hi, do you guys need a sound engineer?
Yes.
As I
we do.
The sound on every show has had its issues. Look. I do apologise. I understand that as an audio podcast, audio should be key, and it was working fine, and we've just had our issues here and there, teething problems, I like to call them. Blame me, all right? Blame me.
Yeah, blame Gav.
Blame late nights,
isn't it?
Blame being on the road and that kind of thing. When we're all right, where I'm here, when we're here in a studio, our home studios, it's fine. But I do apologise, and I apologise for it. Hopefully all was okay with the Kevin Schwantz. A reminder that is out there, and that is, available to go and watch it. You're going to want to go and listen to an hour of Kevin Schwantz just talking about his life and times in motorcycle racing. But yeah, hopefully it's all okay from here on in. I've worked out a few things. But yeah, sound engineers always good. In fact, our sound engineers at TNT Sports absolutely
useless.
The life out of us.
They're useless, though, aren't they? Those guys. I don't know the names.
Whatever they're called. Tom, Dick and Harry, something like that. There was another one that I thought just before the break. Guys, genuine question. Is it Davide Tardozzi in the Flash Speed Mop advert? This is Mr. Mark Carter asking this on Instagram. It's driving me potty.
Can we see the advert?
Speed Mop advert.
I've not seen it.
I haven't got the advert.
There's a recording. Now, I'll just point out this is a recording that you're not going to be able to hear on the audio version of the podcast. So my apologies. I tried to record it with audio. But look, I'm not a sound engineer, all right?
Right, just play it, you dick.
Here we go. So there's a dog looking at a man who as a striking resemblance.
Oh my God, yeah.
I'll do the music. Flash, speed mop. There you are. That's the
That
advert.
does look like Davide.
Oh my God, it
Not
does
the dog,
as well.
not the dog. The dog looks more like...
Oh, that does. Brilliant.
Well, we need to ask him, don't we? Next time we see him.
I think he might have a bit of a sideline. I think he may well do that, have a sideline in the flash speed. But thank you for Mark Carter for bringing that to our attention. Right, when we come back, we're going to have some proper questions from you guys at home, including, I hope, Nicola Golding. We might get to your question if you're lucky. Welcome back to Gas It Out. Right, time for some of your listener questions.
Hang on.
What are you doing there?
Hang on. I'm biting my nails. Sorry. You know what I mean? I'm a fidget.
You're nervous about these questions.
I'm not.
You should be nervous, actually, about one question I've got coming up. Anyway.
I'm not answering Nicola Golding's.
All right, okay.
I'm not. I'm just...
Nicola,
she
you have
keeps
to take it
pestering
up.
us with these questions. Poor Nicola. Right, shall we answer... What's the question anyway? Go on.
It's not Nicola's. We're not going to hers yet because I just want to talk about this. It's a bit more topical. This is from We Phil. Me and my mate watch every race. We're discussing who Marc might fear most in a title hunt more, Bez or Jorge Martín. We both felt Jorge, as he maybe has the edge in outright speed once fit. And in the same vein, this was from YouTube, Duce Devless. Anyway, Jorge and Bez raced since children and he rarely came close to Jorge. Never been a top rider. Looked great last season when all the other Aprilia riders were injured. Between Jorge and Marc, when everyone is fit, was his take. So I want to know your opinions on this one. With Bez obviously leading the championship by 4 points from Jorge Martín. We're surprised about Jorge Martín's form. Neil, what do you reckon? Who's Marc is going to fear most?
Do you know what I love, though? I tell you what I love. First of all, Bez, never been a top rider. Nah, it's crap, innit? You know what I mean? Just won the last 5 MotoGP races.
Led every lap.
Well, someone also made a comment. I'm also going to say, someone also, when we mentioned the 5 in a row, someone did make a comment to us saying, yeah, but that was separated by 2 seasons, so it doesn't count. So
okay, yeah, anyway. It doesn't count. Yeah. Isn't it funny, though, when you were sat at home? So if Bez isn't a top rider, who the bloody hell is? Like, really? Come on. Like, it's funny, isn't it? It'll probably be, I don't know. It'll probably be some road, it'll be some TT rider or something like that. But that's another story altogether.
Okay, in the question, I think the way I'm taking it is, who's the favourite for the title, or who does Marc Márquez, who's he going to
who does he fear the
most?
He doesn't fear anybody. Does it? He doesn't fear. Doesn't fear anybody. He doesn't fear Martín. He doesn't fear Pecco. He doesn't fear Bezzecchi. He doesn't fear anybody at all. He races. Marc races in his own category. I think he doesn't. Yeah, but then if you're going to compare Bezzecchi and Martín, I do agree that there's like a difference. We have seen Martín, in the past in the smaller categories, being that guy with the explosive speed. With we've sort of like the X factor. We've seen more of that from Martín than Bez, and I do agree with that. But you can't argue with the form that Bez is in since the end of last year. It's unreal, leading every single lap for 5 Grand Prix in a row, and winning those 5 Grand Prix in a row as well. That is something very, very special. Like the stats, tell you, there's not many people that have been doing that. There's 5-6 riders, and that's it. And they're all part of the greats. So Bezzecchi is super strong. But to answer the question, Marc doesn't fear anybody, and I think that's the truth. He doesn't, does he?
No, I agree. But I think if you was to pick between them both, I'd say it's. No, it's a really crap answer, but I'd say it's level. I think out and out speed, you maybe go for Martín, but then you see the consistency in the races, leading every lap for the last 5 races from Bez. That's hard to beat. So, Marc now knows if he gets a bad start, if he doesn't qualify well, gets a bad start, and Bezzecchi's leading in the main race, bloody hell, he's going to be hard to beat. So I'd say, I think Sylvain's right. He doesn't fear anyone, but I think that I'd put them both pretty level.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough. But I might say Martín, just because he's been there and failed, that he did trying to win the championship in 23, and he's been there and won it in 24, and then he's been to hell and back in 2025. So he's almost got that kind of, he's got all the experience. He's been through every level that Marc Márquez has been through. You know, he's been to the depths, all these kind of things. And that, I don't know, there's something super confident about Jorge Martín. All motorcycle racers are confident, but Jorge just always appears, he's like a boxer, isn't he? That when he's on a roll, that when he's getting punched around the face, actually, that's when you get the best out of him. So it's a good one, though, isn't it?
Yeah, good one.
And it's probably for Jorge Martín as well. There's probably some potential that he hasn't unlocked yet. He's still recovering, and I feel like there's still more to come from him. When he's going to be able to qualify well, which normally, as a natural riding style, is one of his strong points. He is a fast rider with the qualifying mode on and with the grip in the rear. So when he's going to be able to produce that, to have the confidence to go and reach the maximum potential that he can extract from the bike, which I don't think he is there yet, then is he going to be a massive threat? Then I think so. Yes, I think Martín is going to get better.
Yeah, probably will. Right. Question then from Mark Frog Harris on Insta. Will the 850s be like when we went from 990s to 800? Faster corner speed, later braking, but less overtakes. Love the podcast. It's a good question, isn't it?
Good question.
But there are other parts about the bore, aren't there? There's other things that are going to make sure, in theory, that it should be a lot more competitive.
Yeah.
Who wants to take that?
Well, first of all, I think the Pirelli tyres will help. I think that's going to make the racing more interesting as people figure those out. I also think the banning the rear ride height device, that's going to increase the braking zones. So I think you've a bigger opportunity to overtake. So, but it's a good question because the 800s were a disaster, weren't they? And it was some very, very boring races. The year when Casey won, I mean, there was some real dominant wins and not many battles. So I'm going to say I'm pretty confident it won't be like that. I think it's going to be really exciting. And I'm not just saying that because I'm a TNT commentator.
Yeah, on paper, what they've done is supposed to be better for the show because, like Neil said, no ride height devices. So that's going to make the braking zones a bit longer and also going to make the straight line time a little bit longer. The bikes are going to be a little bit slower because reduction in engine size, but the bore size has been reduced as well proportionally from 82 to 75. So I think that means that you effectively with the 800s, when we came down from 1000 to 800, the bore size wasn't restricted. So you basically what the manufacturers did is build engines that were revving more. Like the revs were insane. I remember in 2008 when I raced the Ducati Pramac 800, the thing took it was like over 19,000 revs. It was insane, and it was really fast. But the engine were like sort of peaky, and that's how the manufacturers got the horsepower out. But with reducing the bore size, they're not going to be able to do that. So we should have simply just an engine that's going to be a bit smaller. Now, because the engine is a bit smaller and we get the Pirelli tires, the bike's going to have less inertia in the braking zones and in the accelerating zones. And I think we're going to get higher corner speeds, unfortunately, if they don't restrict the performance of the tires. Because we know the Pirellis are super grippy and super good. You just have to look at the lap times of Moto2 and superbikes, world superbikes. So that's the only fear that I've got, that we're slowing down a bit the bikes in a straight line, but we increase it in the corners because aero-wise, okay, we get a little bit of restrictions in the front. It's like 50 mil narrower and more less forward for the front wing, but we still have the ground effect fairings. We still have, even though it's got to be homologated, we still have aero on the back seat as well. So I do feel like the corner speeds are not going to be slowed down much, and I reckon the lap times are going to be pretty close or maybe even faster, especially in qualifying mode if Pirelli brings the qualifiers.
Yeah, and also one thing about Pirelli, so you were talking last time or a couple of weeks ago about Bridgestone and how lap 40s is almost as good as lap 2. Pirelli tyre will go off. There will be a disparity, won't there, from the first lap to the last lap. That's their philosophy more is outright one lap speed, isn't it? They're actually not that worried if their tyre drops off. That usually tends to help in terms of disparity of who can make tyres last longer and create a little bit better racing. So fingers crossed, we're all hoping. There is a question from J Russell 441 who says, who will actually get to test the new bikes and tyres? Because obviously a couple of people are staying. Mark Bez, Top Rack, are staying with their manufacturers, but majority are swapping. I can't see the manufacturers allowing anyone leaving to jump on the new bikes, and it is a topic of conversation. This is part of the reason it's interesting to know about who's going to be where and announcing these riders for next year, because we're going to get to a point, it might not necessarily be the test they have at Jerez, but certainly the tests that then start coming up through the year in Barcelona or wherever, and people aren't riding the bikes. And if the announcements haven't been made by then, well, why is so-and-so? Because there will come a point in this year where people will start thinking about 850s, won't there? And certainly, I'm almost certain your Fabio Quartararos and your Pedro Acostas, they're not going to be testing the new bikes.
Yeah, that'll be the case. Which it's going to be really weird because it's pretty much the number one riders that are leaving the teams. So then you obviously normally you'd always want your number one rider to jump on the bike to give us your first impression. But yeah, I mean, I was just thinking then, like, Jorge Martin's looks like he's leaving Aprilia and then going to Yamaha. So like they're not going to want to give him the reference of what they are hoping there's going to be an incredible bike straight away. So yeah, I think it's going to be a weird setup how it all works. I mean, the test riders are going to earn their corn, aren't they? Because they're going to be doing obviously fundamentally the majority of the testing, and they're not going to be able to rely on the main riders because of what we've just said. Because obviously you don't want the guy who's leaving the team getting all that inside information.
Yeah, it's interesting, Sylvain, isn't it? Having done a lot of test riding yourself in this situation, what will the discussions be going on behind the scenes at, in the head offices in these manufacturers? Because I'm trying to think if there's been a situation where people have tested bikes they weren't going to ride, where it was out in the open, they just thought we just need the data, I can't off the top of my head think of it.
It's not going to happen. Like absolutely zero chance. A rider, no matter if he's the top guy or that number one rider, if he is leaving at the end of the year for a different manufacturer, he will not get anywhere near that 850 bike, because you don't want to give information or ideas or anything like that to somebody that's going to leave, and that's it. So yeah, all the guys that are leaving, unfortunately, are not going to be able to try their 850 bikes until their new contract, until they can go and ride for their new manufacturers. So yeah, test riding is going to be super important. And you're thinking like manufacturers with riders that are not staying at all. Like, for example, if we take, I mean, it's not official, nothing has been announced. But for example, Honda, who is going to take the test their 850s? It'll be João Zarco and maybe Moreira. But the factory team, it sounds like they're both leaving, and they're getting two new riders. So and they've just obviously Aleix Espargaró is not going to be able to race the 850 or test the 850, for a while now. So that could be complicated. But the one thing that is for sure is that if a rider is leaving for another manufacturer, there is absolutely zero chance they will do any laps at all, or be even anywhere near the bike in the box, because they want to hide their know-how and whatever they're doing with a new project.
One thing I will add to it though, just really quickly, is all the information a rider has is feel, which is important, and that's what they can then, when they change teams, they can explain what they felt. But trust me, 99% of the riders haven't got a clue what's really going on underneath the fairing. Do you know what I mean? That's the reality. So it's not like, because they're going to then swap manufacturers and go, right, this is what they've done to their engine, or this is what they're doing with their swing arm, or what, it's, but feel is key, and that's everything.
Absolutely. Right. So thanks to Jay Russell for that question. It'd be interesting to see when testing starts on those 850s with the the contracted riders for following season. Right. Let's have a look. What other questions have we got here? Here's one from Michael Hubbard, who says, it's a bit of a rude one, I think. Michael Hubbard said, is the V4 Yamaha running full power? If not, what's the reason for it? I don't know what's the reason for it not running full power, or what's the reason for it? What's the reason for it being a V4 Yamaha? But yeah, chaps, take that one on. Admin answered on that, basically saying, look, Japanese manufacturers, this is what our admin said to Michael, responded saying that Japanese manufacturers are notoriously cautious about this kind of things and don't want to blow up that scene as the worst thing possible for it. What's your take on it, Syl?
Yeah, that's true for any manufacturers, but especially for the Japanese ones. We know that they really don't want that to happen. So yeah, they're running the maximum power they feel like will be holding on, basically, because the last thing they want is his engine blowing. Even though with a new project, it's sort of what happens normally. You have to test the limits. Break some engines, see where they break, and then fix the problem. So for Yamaha to be taking on this new V4 project and not wanting obviously to blow engines right, left, and center, it's such a difficult task. We hear that there's going to be a new spec for the V4 Yamaha, probably for Le Mans, so that should come up with a little bit more power. But if you remember,
I was there when Fabio talked about that. He said, not before Le Mans. So, it was... So maybe after, that was at best, Hopefully they can try it after the Jerez test, after the race, there's an official test and they might running it there to make sure that the engine holds on. But it's, when you take on a new project, it's what happens. When Suzuki came back to MotoGP, it was the other way around, from a V4 to an inline 4. When they came back, I don't know if you remember, the first race was with Randy de Punier in Valencia. They joined the last race. And he spent the whole weekend blowing engines up, and unfortunately that's what happened. And then later on that was 2015, was it? 15, I think it was, or 16. Yeah, that was it.
And then after that, obviously they fixed the problems and everything went well. But when they first came out, there was a lot of issues, which is to be expected. You're pushing the limits of engineering, you're pushing the limits of those engines, and you're going to get some issues that you need to then adjust. But the V4, we saw the top speeds, didn't we? We were looking at it, Neil and Gabby, when we were in commentary in Austin, and the Yamaha was the slowest bike by a long way. So
it's about 10
Ks, do need to find more power.
Sylvain, about 10 Ks, I think.
Almost, yeah. It was about 8 Ks in average or something like that, which is a lot. And then when we were looking at the ghosting as well, you could see that they were getting really thrashed in the straight. The outright pure power, you could tell was down quite a bit. Yeah.
To put it this way, Gab, just quickly.
You still have an engine limit, don't you, though, as well, don't you? You still have only effectively 10 that you can do
over 10, with the concessions.
Over the season. You can't just go around blowing up engines. And you're also looking at engine life as well. That's part of what you're aiming for.
Yeah. But I genuinely think this, would they not be better just blowing up engines and trying to fast track the period that they're in right now? Because as it stands, their V4 is slower than the inline 4. The inline 4 was probably on average 5 Ks down, really. And this is obviously closer to 10. So if they start blowing up engines, Dorna aren't going to be all of a sudden, that's it, now you can't race anymore. Of course, and they might have to start from the back of the grid.
Then. Exactly.
That's what I mean. They're at the back of the grid anyway. They're battling for last. Like literally at the weekend in America, it was the 4 Yamahas battling for last place. So I know I know that I totally respect the theory behind it, but part of you, this is the racer brain, is just start cutting corners a little bit and let's put some more horsepower in. Because when you're 10 kilometers down, that's the equivalent of, I'm going to say, 20 brake horsepower. Because to push you through the air when you get into the top gears. So it's not that's not coming because they've got a bad ride height device or the aero's not quite working. So I think they really need to.
Yeah, they'd be able to get that whatever. They'd be able to produce more than enough
And the reason they won't is because of the reliability. And everybody's gone full circle, haven't we? It's like, well,
they could have issues with fuel consumption as well. One way to get more power would be to get more revs, which then that could become more critical for the engine reliability. But then that could also be a problem for fuel consumption. So you never know where the limitations are. Obviously, when they're testing, away from the eyes of the media in Japan or whatever, they've been doing loads of testing in Motegi, and they always have, and always are still doing it. Maybe they are trying, more power, more revs, or whatever. But maybe they're having issue with the fuel as well, because we know everybody's super tight with the fuel. In Austin, we saw all the riders doing the out lap to go on the grid. They were all like in completely full saving mode, slipstreaming, tucked in and short shifting, everywhere, not touching the brakes. So everybody's on the limit for that, because obviously only 22 liters for the full race distance, that is not a lot. Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Michael, for your question. Right. This is a fun one for me and Sylvain anyway. Might be a bit awkward for Neil Hodgson. This was under a Neil Hodgson video, which said, at Jedi says, "Are you still seeing Susie behind your partner's back?"
Wow, I love that.
It's a lot longer than
years
that.
Now.
It's more than 6-7 years, isn't it, Neil?
More like 20. No, I mean, that's so funny.
It made me chuckle.
It's funny because obviously we've worked with Susie obviously we've known Susie forever, and we've worked with her for a long time. And yeah, it's you couldn't be farther from the truth. I mean, we've got a great working relationship. She's our mate, so that seems bizarre. And my wife's literally just sat here, so I'm just nothing to say.
Anyway,
Hang on, I'm sweating. And also, I'm not the one who keeps doing all these long runs with Susie. What, Sylvain? What are you?
We got running.
Long run.
That's it.
In the evenings.
Yeah, exactly.
Taking hours.
Well, that's you got to put the training in, marathon training, bro.
That's okay. Go on. Next question, Gav.
Next question.
Anyway, we thought it was a bit rude anyway. So thanks though, Jedi U, for that question. Right. I've got one here from Arturo. He's at Arturo MMA, really early, but going by last year as well. I think Marc has already kissed Ducati with his death touch regarding development and setup, slowly becoming the bike that only Marc can ride, like the Honda. Discuss, chaps, where are we in the development of this bike? Because last year, a lot of people were saying this anyway when it was him going on. But obviously that was a bike that he hadn't developed, that he hadn't, taken on. What do you reckon? What do you reckon on that? Do you really think that Ducati are not wise to this kind of thing? But also, in some respects, they're also going to listen to their world champion, aren't they? The person that's brought them the championship, the person they want to make feel like he's their number one rider.
Yeah, I think also we're at the end of the development cycle. All the other manufacturers have had the concessions, so they have closed the gap to Ducati, and you can argue that Aprilia might have just overtaken them. So they are the facts, but that's what the concessions were designed for, to allow the other manufacturers to bridge that gap. So, I mean, I'm going to say 90% of me doesn't think that's happening, but there is that 10% that you're going, it does look a bit like something's going on at Ducati. When you look at Pecco's comments all the time, it's sort of consistent, and his body language is, well, I can't do anything with this bike. So, but like you said, Gav, when you were asking the question, surely Ducati have got enough experience and know what the numbers should look like with their supercomputer when they analyze everything. So I'm going to say I don't feel like that's happening.
And Sylvain, how much these days then is one individual rider making the difference these days? How much is coming from data? How much is coming from simulations? That kind of thing.
Well, of course, when you are a manufacturer and you've got a super talent that's just won the championship for you, and he's asking you certain things about the bike, you are going to listen to him in priority. And that's just what happens. You're going to try and solve his problems so you can give him solutions to go faster and win more races and more championships for you. So yeah, I think that's true. But then does Ducati just look at the feedback of one rider? Probably not. Absolutely not. I don't think so. I think that they'll be listening to everybody that's there. They've got this opportunity, Ducati, to have 6 bikes on the grid. They've got a lot of feedback coming back their ways, and they'll be listening to everybody. But you can't deny the fact that you will want to bring solutions for your top rider, and that can drag the direction of the development of a bike in a certain way. Now, how much do you push that? How much do you go with this sort of strategy? That's difficult to say. It's difficult to say because it will depend on the manufacturer. It will depend on the politics inside the team and the manufacturer and the race department. And so, yeah, but I mean, it is true that the manufacturer will go with what the top rider or the top riders need, but they'll also listen. They'll also have an open mind, and if everybody else is saying they need something else, they will they will have to consider it. Obviously, they know they're too wise to fall in that trap, I think, and I think they will they'll be listening to everybody.
We thought that about Honda, though, didn't we? In that respect, but again, it's hard to say. And we all know Marc rides a particular way. We know when we've spoken before to Cal Crutchlow when he used to talk to us, and this was while he was racing. He was there, and he would say to us, "You just need to see his data." He'd say to us, "Colour is in the paddock. You should just have a look at." What the things that he's doing on the bike. You try and replicate them. I'm going straight down, and so he's got his own way of riding. He's particularly aggressive. He's got his own unique style of that handbrake turn that you talk about, Neil. Of using the rear really to ride the bike, to corner the bike, and maybe look. We talk about the Aprilia. Is it a bit more of a front endy bike, or one that is this era with aero? Is that where bike development needs to go in that direction?
But Aprilia turns better, doesn't it? The Aprilia is a better turning bike, and this is where the Ducati is. And when we do the ghosting, wherever we've done it, all the free races where we've done it, it's every single time the same thing. The Aprilia pivots better, turns better, holds at the moment you get on the throttle with the Aprilia, no matter what rear tire you have. We thought it might be down to the heat treated carcass tires that we used in Buram and in Brazil, that Aprilia was able to get the better of that. Well, actually they did, but then they did as well in Austin with the standard casing. So the Aprilia naturally has a bit more turning, and probably that's where Ducati needs to work. But that's not necessarily what Marc Márquez will be asking. Márquez will be asking for more braking and accelerating stability, and he'll be saying, "I'll make it turn," probably. But
I tell you what was interesting.
Maybe that's where they disagree.
I don't know if you guys watch the Ducati Lenovo their YouTube after they did the YouTube channel. Do you know what I found really interesting? Now, obviously, it's been edited by Ducati, so they would put this in.
I'm intrigued to know if you're going to say exactly the same thing that I was thinking.
Yeah. And it was a real standout for me, because it's rare you hear this, but you're Marc Márquez, you come in, you're having your debrief, and all he did was blame himself every time.
Exactly what
and he said, it's not the bike. And I'm like,
yeah.
But I know he's not 100% fit, but because we, like Sylvain just mentioned, we were able to show the ghosting on TNT Sports, so you can see exactly the lines that riders are able to take through the faster corners. You could see Bez and him as a direct comparison. Bez was able to pull the bike 5 meters tighter just on exit to then through that S section to really open up that part of the track, and it was so clear to see. So, but Marc was not having it, was he? He was like, "No, it's not the bike, it's me." I'm like, wow. I've stood in so many garages. I know what I used to say as an ex-rider. But I've listened to my teammates over the years, and I've listened to loads of riders since I've retired. And that's pretty rare you hear that. Because normally riders go, "It's shit because," and they're banging the drum and it won't turn here. And obviously you're full of adrenaline when you're having a debrief anyway. And it's quite an animated, it's quite intimidating if you'd not experienced it before. If you ever got the opportunity to go into a garage, because everyone's shouting because of the volume of everything around you. And what's funny is you carry that volume in your voice, even when the bike's in and switched off, the session ends, the riders are still shouting loud. It's quite interesting to see.
Yeah, that's why they've all got the microphones and the headsets now, haven't they?
Makes
for that
sense.
Particular reason, so that everyone's not going around shouting. But yeah, it's an interesting talking point. Look, your Marc fans will be saying one thing, your Marc haters will be saying another. I'm sure, but
bring me a coffee. Thank you.
That's nice. That's all very well. You are in shot. We can say, oh no.
Oh, you're in shot. It's got the V's. Old school V's.
All right, on that note, I reckon we need to take a break. You have your coffee, Neil. If anyone is at home, maybe grab yourself a cup of tea. We'll be back in a couple of minutes. Remember, at Gas It Out Pod on Instagram and YouTube to send us your questions. Nicola, we're coming for you next. Welcome back to the final part of Gas It Out. Neil, I've got a question for you. What on earth was this? What do you think of this?
You said it, wear it. I'm impressed. It's tight though. It's, I think it's my muscles. It's more muscles than me. And it's getting more things
I think that's a child's shirt. That's not an adult shirt.
Small.
Tell you what, he's a good lad, isn't he? He's a good lad. He was excited to see me wearing that top.
Thank you. Thanks, Didger.
Good old Didger.
I was so sorry.
I'll stop it there. It starts getting personal at that point. Yeah, that if you are just on the audio version, that was Neil turning up. We just stood at the back of the VR46 garage and we bumped into Didger and we had a really good chat with him, didn't we? But yeah, absolutely loved the fact that you were wearing that horrific, garish, Larry Aldo Drudy design.
Extra small t-shirt.
Extra small. Oh my God. Have I told you about my dad? Did I tell you?
No, what?
The weirdest thing. So I spoke to my dad on the Tuesday after America, and he went, "Did you bring that VR46 top home with you?" I went, "Yeah." And he went, "I'll have that." Now, bear in mind, it's
to sell it. Is he wheeling and dealing?
But it was just funny, like the way he said it. I'll have that. It's a size medium, but it's an Italian medium, so it's a UK small, right? It was tight on me.
What are you saying about Mark Hodgson?
Well, so I said, "Dad, it won't fit you." And he went, "Well, you're broader than me." It's like, I'm not talking about shoulders here. We're talking about the keg. You know what I mean? Like, my dad's got a bit of a gut on him now. So it was just like, and then I'm only thinking of the size. Then I thought, oh my God, what a horrendous top it is anyway. Like, can you imagine a 72-year-old man walking around Burnley?
You loved it.
No, I like it.
I think it looked really cool.
For the kids. Yeah. But can you imagine my dad walking around Burnley in his work jeans and some shoes he's been wearing for 30 years and that top?
No. What was your mug say there, Neil, by the way? What's that mug say? Tell me what it says.
It says hot enough to make you scream. That's the worst mug. How embarrassing. Where
have you got that from? You bought yourself that. You've bought yourself that.
I have no idea. It's probably
hot enough to make you scream.
Probably someone bought it me.
Was it a present? Yeah.
Terrible. That's so bad.
That's more my style.
One more question. Right, we've got a question here actually from Riley Davis. You'll like this one. Who is a young commentator who says, "Look, got a question lined up for the pod. Since it's usually commentators asking riders questions, I'm going to flip it sideways, Gary McCoy style, and have me, a young commentator, asking you guys, the commentators, a question. I think sometimes how much effort gets put into your jobs goes heavily unrecognised in the wider fan base. I agree, Riley. I was wondering and hoping for advice. What's your best advice for commentating with talkback? I've tried it before. It's super difficult, but I've got used to it over time. I could use some work. Loving the pod." Riley, thank you so much for your question. Come on, guys. What's it like commentating with talkback?
I've no idea. Oh my God.
Thank you. Thanks for us. It's Susie doing that stuff because we couldn't cope. I can't cope at all. as soon as there's something in my ears, I'd lose all train of thoughts, and we're live, and I sort of like freeze, like a rabbit that's just seen some lights, So it's horrendous, isn't it? It's multitasking. So yeah, it's good job Susie's there. Put it that way.
Yeah, and Gav, you have to deal with it quite a bit as well. And every now and again when we're commentating, the director will say something to us, won't he, Carv, or somebody will speak, and it still throws me off. I've been doing it for 13 years now, but yeah, the pros like Gav or Susie, like just deal with it. But me and Sylvain are useless. So yeah.
Talk back, for anyone who doesn't know, is, as Neil said, when the directors, the producers, these guys are talking to you in your ears. So they might be saying, all right, we're going to a break, or you've got our script supervisor, whether it be Nina or Norma, in our ears with their dulcet tones telling us in 10 seconds you're going to a break, that kind of thing. And it pops up every now and then. So it's one of those things that when people actually hear it, there was a great one that we did a couple of years ago that showed what's going on in Susie's ears when she's out on the grid, and we get that in commentary as well. And it's a strange thing, but just over the years you just learn to zone out and learn to listen to the things that you need to at the right time. But only usually, like, it'd be myself and Susie that would have it, and these guys are on what's called switch talkback anyway. That's
can I just tell you this, so that which you love. So Sylvain, I'm gonna have to throw you under the bus. So what always happens, obviously Susie just asks me and Sylvain questions, and Susie's got all the information. So Susie might know that we're going to a break in 30 seconds. So she'll ask Sylvain a question, and he's talking, and we've got this code between us. So if you're talking to Susie and she looks at you and she gives you the old, and then if she goes like this, then that means wrap it up. But what happens with Sylvain, it's the best, right? Because I'm always stood behind Sylvain. So I see Susie, give him the, and then I see the slow, and when the slow wink, Sylvain, he's a rabbit in the headlights. He panics, and then he has verbal diarrhea. And then
can't stop talking.
The best bit is, right, he'll be saying something, and there's a clear out, and I think, stop talking now. And then he just carries on and carries on and carries on. And then she's like, because sometimes it's what's called a hard count, which is the end of the program. It's not one of them like certain counts can.
We have to be off air at a certain time.
Exactly. So Sylvain, honestly, when it happens, bear in mind it happens every weekend, but Sylvain will get a wing.
Fire. I love it, and it's exciting because you push it a bit, you push it, and then but then I obviously with Susie we got that code, and I can read, I can tell when he's.
Can you decipher that code? Hey, can you decipher it?
One is like, hey, it might be a good idea to wrap it up, and then yeah, like Neil said, the next one is like, we're getting close now, and then you got the read it like that, and this one is like now, as in like now. So yeah, I love it. But it is like you get stressed and you're thinking of wrapping up what you're saying, but then you feel like you've not really said anything.
That makes sense
to say.
You haven't actually made the point yet.
Yeah,
so, too much waffle.
Hey, one of the times with Sylvain, it was funny. I remember, I think she'd give him a couple of winks, and then Susie went like this, like wrap it up, and he thought that meant continue talking.
Oh, yeah, I thought that meant you need to fill in, you need to carry on. So I carried on. Yeah,
well, that's what all the riders do, though. Anyone who can't see, it's the finger roll. Yeah. It's either make a substitute in football, or it's I'll come back after my crash next time.
I thought that meant, we got a bit more time here. You need to keep talking, just keep going.
Not wrap it up.
So I was actually making things up and just,
Which actually does remind me once, Neil, of James Toasden. We had the same.
I was just thinking that.
In Misano one time. Yeah. And as Neil said, you're told to stop talking. And we were told at the end of a show, stop talking in 2 minutes. Or stop talking 2 minutes. And James took that as, I needed to speak for another 2 minutes, wasn't it?
Yeah, because if you remember, who was the was it the guitarist?
It was Paolo Nutini.
Yeah. So because he was there, he misheard it, that because obviously James is a musician, that he to then sort of, I guess, interview him for 2 minutes, and he just stopped. And it just went on, didn't it? And it was like
funny.
It's like
afterwards, it was like, oh, right. Oh, right.
I thought you meant like talk, not stop talking. So funny.
Anyway,
Thank you, JT. I feel a bit less lonely now. Thank you.
we've all been involved in those. Riley, good luck with the commentating and the career in that one. Right. Do we have time for any more questions?
No, I think we're done.
Go on then, Nicola. We'll ask your question.
No,
right, let's see what she's got for us. You haven't.
It better be good, Nicola. This better be good.
Right, Nicola Golding has been hanging on for ages. We're just at the end. It's our last question that we've got. I've got others, but we'll have to save them for next time.
Better be good, Nicola.
Nicola Golding, I would like to see the sprint race results set the grid for the main race. A bad Friday can ruin the whole weekend. What are your thoughts, boys?
That was a tumbleweed. No.
Sylvain, what would you?
There's so having you on, Nicola. Actually, that's a really good question. It is. Nicola, it is very good, and I agree with it. I don't like it. The Friday afternoon, it determines the whole weekend. Why? If you get it wrong, and you're not in Q2, and then you get you start. You don't start in the first two rows, and your weekend is done, even if you got race pace. So I do agree. I think you should have a way to get your weekend back on track if you've got pace or if you make improvements from during the weekend as well. That rewards improvements. So yeah, I agree. I think that or in BSB the system is it with
fastest
best lap?
Fastest laps.
The fastest laps,
yeah.
I think that's good as well. The only issue there is MotoGP would not want to be seen as copying a rule that already exists in another championship. They've done it already
with the qualifying systems, haven't they? With the Q1s and Q2s. I think it's a good idea. I think the sprint race has probably been to the detriment of either way to the Sunday race, because often you know what's going to happen, or people have a chance to sort things out, in a race, and actually then does it make the Sunday that little bit more boring because of it? I was never a massive fan of them in the first place. We've had some decent ones, I have to say, already this year, but it seems to have sorted it out for Bez to run off and escape for the last 5 races. So look, I'm not thinking we fix a problem with it, but I do think if there's any way of the grid being different, it offers a chance for Sunday to be different, doesn't it? It is a chance for it to do that.
I guess the counter argument is, bear in mind, it is a good question, and we were only winding you up, by the way. I feel like I've got to say that before you think we're horrible. So you've qualified on pole, you crash at turn 1, then what happens? So you've made one mistake, or you've got knocked off at turn 1, and
it's not your fault.
Your fault at all. You're having the best weekend ever. Now I'm at the back of the grid for the main race tomorrow. Great. Not only have I been absolutely shafted in the sprint race.
Is it the front 2 rows then? Is it the front 3 rows?
Yeah, that's what World Superbikes did, didn't they? Something like that at one point.
Up to P9 or P10 or something like that.
It's not an easy fix, but I tell you what, you're so right. You don't want to be Friday afternoon is so important now. You are in at the deep end, riding over your limit, literally over your limit, to try and secure a lap time. So that
it was worth the wait for Nicola's question. I mean,
you know what? Formula One have a second qualifier, don't they? When they have a sprint race, they have the sprint, and then they have a second qualifying session of it. Or you could have that. Your Sunday warm-up.
That's the answer, Gav. That's the answer. Yeah. Get rid of Moto 2 and Moto 3. Gav, I can't believe you're saying this. What have they done? These support classes are really important in the championship.
Support? You're calling them support classes? Hey, speaking about that, actually, someone did ask us, one of the questions that we haven't had time to get to is, what were your thoughts on the baggers? So I think we should leave that for next time. We can talk about that and your thoughts about what the baggers was like, the first race of their World Cup, or races, shall we say, when we're in the circuit of the Americas. We've got other questions from Jensen Watts, a couple of other people. Benji Edits, we've got your question sat on the sidelines. We'll hope to get to it very soon. Anything else that you guys want to share with us before we get going? I suppose our next episode will be our build-up to the Spanish Grand Prix in Jerez.
Yeah.
Anything else you need to get off your chest?
Nothing to add, I don't think.
Well, I suppose then we should say to Sylvain, wish you the very, very best of luck, and we'll be disappointed with anything less than silverware.
I know we're going to go for it. Well, it's an exciting couple of weeks coming up because the Le Mans 24 hours. It's a full week. So you go there on a Monday, you start testing on a Tuesday. We've also actually on Tuesday, this is going to be great. We've got the leathers that I'm going to wear to run the marathon, the London Marathon, the Sunday after. So we've got a lap of the track that has been organized by the World Endurance Championship with all the riders and all the paddock basically on track. So we're going to do a lap running or walking or whatever, all on track, and I'll do it with the leathers. Then we've got obviously the week build up, qualifying, night practice, and so on. Start on the Saturday at 3:00, and that's on TNT actually. On HBO Max and TNT on at the weekend. So 24-hour racing, and then the weekend after. So I'm not going to be in Jerez, unfortunately, with you guys the weekend after, and I'll be in London running the marathon in the leathers. So yeah, a busy couple of weeks, and hopefully I can recover in between because Le Mans 24 hours, you're tired after that for quite a bit. It is a grueling sort of event.
I remember Michael Laverty telling me about when he did it and he slept for 36 hours.
It's that kind of tiredness. You are absolutely destroyed after that, unfortunately. But I'll have a week to recover, so be all right.
Well, all our luck from myself and Neil for the 24 hours, mate. And hopefully we'll speak to you before the Spanish Grand Prix. And we'll speak to you guys at home, as always, at Gas It Out Pod on Instagram and on YouTube. Send us a message. Send us your comments. We love hearing from you, as you can tell. And we hope to be speaking to you all again very soon indeed. If in doubt, gas it out.